Hello and happy Easter to everyone. Welcome to the Stadium of Light, where Sunderland are back in action this afternoon to take on Blackburn Rovers. Looking to back up their win on Good Friday, a rare win what has been this year so far against Cardiff City, and what will be the first back-to-back wins since Mike Dodds' last time in charge against West Brom and Leeds United. Two changes this afternoon: Patrick Roberts back into the side along with Romain Mundle, Chris Rigg and Abdullah Bar dropping to the bench. But the headline news: Matty, Jack Clarke back in Sunderland squad.
Yeah, I saw quite a funny tweet earlier about, I think, Jesus coming back to life and Sunderland have trumped it by Jack Clarke being back in the squad. Mike Dodds spoke about it in the build-up to the game, didn't he, that, this weekend's sort of Good Friday, Easter Monday fixtures, it might be too early for him. Sprung a bit of a surprise, he's on the bench. It'll be very interesting to see if he gets minutes today. I know that Dodds has spoken about taking care with injured players. Adjalise obviously isn't on the bench. That's sort of we'll ask Dodds about that later on. But the interim head coach has spoke about taking care with these injured players. Patrick Roberts is obviously back in the starting lineup today. I think just when you look at the squad as a whole, just even on the bench, it looks so much stronger. Obviously, you'd prefer the likes of Clarke to be in the starting 11, but from where we've been and that sort of 7-game winless run to now see, you're actually looking at the bench thinking we've got game changers here at the minute, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll bring up the starting 11 just to start with, and I think, like you touched on there, it just feels and it just looks a lot more stronger than what we've seen in recent weeks. Patrick Roberts, key player to have back in the side. It gives Chris Rigg a little bit of a rest. I thought he was very good down at Cardiff, but obviously 16 years old, back-to-back games, and he's still a great option to have off the bench, which says so much, 16 years old. Romain Mundle comes in for Abdullah Bar, who's struggled a little bit the last couple of games. Again, probably nice to rotate him out. Then Job leads the line once again after what I thought was his best display in the Sunderland shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a bit like a broken record when it comes to Job up front, because it's no coincidence that I think Sunderland's best spell since I've sort of started covering the club again has come with Job leading that line. You said it, I know it, in Cardiff, that was what you thought was his best performance of the season. I mean, interestingly, I found the point you made about not knowing his own position. We saw his brother talk about him being a thoroughbred striker, and those comments at the time were sort of, oh, well, is he a striker then? And I think since then, I actually think he plays that role really, really well. I know his dad was a goal scorer at lower levels, but I think when you look at that and the performance that he put in at Cardiff, I think there's no way you could have dropped him from that role.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, it was 7 goals, Sunderland's second highest goal scorer of the season. But as I noted in a piece that went up on Are Sunderland yesterday, it was a real striker's shift. It was a proper shift up front. 18 years old, he was chasing down, he was tracking back into his own half. He was linking up the play well. He was running into the channels. Obviously, he got his goal. He contributed. He made the penalty as well. It was just a real good performance, what he's needed off the back of that international break, where Mike Dodds said that he didn't let him go on the England duty, give him the majority of the fortnight off. What a response from him, and he's going to be brimming with confidence to get back on the field today.
Yeah, I think interestingly, if we just sort of go back that Cardiff game, it felt like Sunderland had a bit more structure to them, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think at home we've seen them sort of tinker with in possession and out of possession. They've gone to a back three. It's interesting to see Styles play there again. I thought he had a good game at Cardiff. I don't think there was many that had particularly poor games, but I think it's a bit of it's a bigger test today. I think at home. Yes, you've got that win, but now it's about backing it up. Al-Shish again, I thought he's been really good since he's come back into the side. You're starting to see, I think, when you play with a number 10, that little bit of connectivity that you maybe haven't had in that final third. And I mentioned it when Pritchard left, that Al-Shish is potentially somebody who could fill that void, and he's certainly shown glimpses. Okay, the issue you have with sort of number 10s and creative midfielders is consistency. But yeah, I think when you look at that team at the start 11, at least there's plenty of attacking threat. There hasn't been really any question marks over the defence this year, has there? They're still up there with one of the best defences in the Championship. It's just been unlocking that final third. And in the last season where they outscored teams, this year they've struggled in that final third. But the XG against Cardiff alone, so many positives in that game, and you've just got to back that up today.
Yeah, just to pick apart a little bit what you said there with the defence. Obviously, a big factor with that on Friday. Luke O'Neill and Dan Ballard back together. That was only the second time Mike Dodds has had that at his disposal because of the suspensions. And you could see, couldn't you, how much of a difference that makes. There's been so much debate about Luke O'Nien this season. Is he a centre-back? Could he be further forward when Sunderland have needed him in midfield, or over the right back with injuries, suspensions, etc., etc.? Players leaving last summer, Danny Bath. You could see on Friday how much of an impact having them two paired back together meant. Only the second back-to-back clean sheets since September, I think it was.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? I mean, I know we spoke earlier in this year, I think around January, about is that Luke O'Nien's position now centre half, and it's really difficult to argue otherwise, isn't it? Because you sit there and when those two are together, where Luke O'Nien was once a makeshift centre half, you actually feel Sunderland are really quite solid there.
Yeah.
For what they don't, O'Nien's not the tallest. And again, you could question whether does that play a part in the set plays. I know you've spoken about that on Sunderland's hybrid sort of marking, zonally and man marking. But with Ballard alongside him, you don't ever feel like O'Nien really gets targeted in that area, and they are quite strong. So, yeah, I think like I've said, when you look at the names on the bench as well, just instantly you're feeling a much better place and much more confident going into the games.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we sat here a couple of weeks ago against Queen's Park Rangers on the bench, there was 3 academy players and Chris Rigg, and then obviously your goalkeeper and Timothy Pembele, only 20 years old, who hasn't played much football. All of a sudden, it just looks a lot more experienced, even though there is young lads still on there, and Lewis Amir and Mason Burstow, Chris Rigg's still on there. Leo Kjelder's only 20. I guess this is a circumstance where Sunderland are at that we feel that does look experienced, but then it tells you where they've been. The fact that it didn't before that.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bradley Dack will continue to divide, opinion on where side. His goal return hasn't been good enough. He hasn't played enough minutes. But just having him on there alone, you like to think maybe, I don't know, if he comes off the bench against his former club, Bradley Dack 1-0, it's games like that just sometimes it's just set up that way. We haven't seen enough of him. Abdullah Bar again is someone it's a strange one at times to sort of put your finger on, where his best position is.
We've seen him over on the left the last couple of games, where I think his strongest performances have probably come over on the right. Now, obviously, naturally, with Patrick Roberts coming back into the side, he's still your starting right winger at this moment in time, despite what has been a difficult season for him in terms of injuries, at least. But that position with Bar has been an interesting one. Yeah,
like you said there, I think, I forget if it was Michael Beale or Mike Dodds who said this, but Abdullah Bar's preferred position is out on that left-hand side. But for me, like you say there, the best we've seen of him is out on this right-hand side. The only thing I will say is that I don't really think he's done enough in Jack Clarke's absence to be one of those to step up and stake a claim. Romain Mundell, aside from maybe a bright start, the goal at Southampton as well, it's been pretty quiet from him. I'd like to see something from him today. I just feel like he needs to, he's had his feet in the door now.
Yeah.
It's time to, take things up a gear, I think.
You mentioned him there, and we obviously started this live stream with Jack Clarke. Just how much of a boost does that feel, whether that's up here in the press box, down there in the stand, and obviously with them, the players in the dressing room, just to have your talisman back in there?
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? I mean, look, I think everyone's pretty well aware that he won't be here next year, but just to have him on the bench, I mean, we've spoken about just finishing the season strongly, getting wins on the board, and look, any team in the Championship, I'd argue even bottom half of the Premier League would want a Jack Clarke on their side, and the fact that he's now back on the bench, look, he might just be on the bench just for that, just to give everyone a boost. We might not see him today, but even just having him on that bench is just massive. His goal contributions this season speak for itself. I don't know. I just feel positivity heading into this one. It's a completely different.
It's unusual, isn't it?
It's a completely different feeling just coming off the back of a win at Cardiff, and then you've got injured players returning. We've said on the pods that we've done in the morning briefings that it can't be an excuse having these injured players out, but fresh on the back of a win and with these the players return, it does feels
much different.
Yeah, there's a different feel around the place. There's sort of an air of positivity around it. They've got to back that up though.
Yeah, which brings us on to just to conclude this. It's so important that they go out and put in a performance after what was the best performance for such a long time down at Cardiff, to come back in front of the home supporters. Blackburn, they've been struggling. Obviously, they're fighting for different reasons now, but this is a real chance to build a little bit of momentum, and then looking ahead to Bristol City at the weekend back here. Real chance to back up what was a great performance on Friday.
Yeah, if I was Mike Dodds, and I'm not, look, I'm sat in the press box. Honestly, if I'm Mike Dodds in this situation, I'm all right, I'm not maybe putting too much pressure on them, but I'm demanding a run now.
Yeah.
Show them what they can do. Look, they need a minor miracle to finish in that top 6, but if you can put a run together and really finish on a strong run of form, like we've said on previous podcasts and videos, it's such a strong statement. If you finish the season on a high, you've got a bit of momentum heading into next season. It's massive. This summer's massive, but you've got to start putting together a run of results. It'll only breed confidence, and you'll go from there. And I think ahead of the likes of Leeds, West Brom coming up, these are the games where you need to win, especially on home soil.
Well, there you have it. So just run through the team again. Patrick Roberts and Romain Mundle are back in the side, and Jack Clarke, the headline news, back in the squad on the bench. Can Sunderland string back-to-back wins together? We will find out. Make sure you stay tuned to We Are Sunderland. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and to our website for all the latest coming up. And we will be back later in the week to review this and obviously post-match with everything from Mike Dodds and what we hope will be another win. Thanks for joining us.
Catch you later.